Pro Football Playbook, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. Your source for team news, draft needs, player profiles and rankings, full Senior Bowl, Combine, and NFL draft coverage, news, analysis, discussion. It's in the playbook. Now, here is your host, sports journalist Bill Alvstad, and featured analyst Keith Myers. Hey, Pro Football Playbook Podcast listeners. Welcome into the show. My name is Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers. Today we're talking Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl is taking place on Saturday, but the practices are this week, and that's really the important part of this exercise as we evaluate prospects heading up into the draft. So it's really fun to finally get a chance to see some of these guys we've been talking about in our position group evaluations as we've gone through this process over the last 6 weeks or so. Welcome into the show, Keith. How you doing?
Doing good. Glad that you are here to talk about players because this week has been kind of crazy for me. I have not had the opportunity to watch practice for the Senior Bowl the way that I normally would, but you are fully prepared and are going to be the absolute guy. So
yeah, I've had notes. Had notes from earlier in the week, and then I was able to sit down and watch both the American football group and the National Football group today. The Lions are coaching the American team, and the Jets are coaching the national team. So it's an interesting mix. But I have to tell you, the coaches are doing a phenomenal job. They've kind of been interviewing different coaches, and they've had different coaches mic'd up, giving instruction and so forth. I've been really impressed with both staffs, to be completely honest, especially the Lions. Like Randall L is the wide receiver coach for the Lions.
Wow, that's a fantastic coaching hire.
And he's
very
amazing.
Underrated wide receiver.
It's funny. He yells and smiles at the same time. It's a really interesting characteristic that he has, and it really makes me like him a lot. So I'm here to talk about players. So I can just start. You want to start with quarterbacks?
Yeah, I want to start with the quarterbacks because this is what I've heard. Like I said, I haven't been able to watch, but I've heard some things. And Kenny Pickett is a guy that is generally considered the best quarterback in the draft, but he apparently had a really bad measurement day before they even got on the field.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So he measures great
hands
overall, but yeah, his hand size is crazy. So it doesn't kind of fit it proportionally. He's got really small hands. And we won't go into what that actually means in real life. We'll just talk about what it means in football life, and we'll stick to that conversation. So Kenny Pickett, I don't have the measurement in front of me, and they didn't list it on the website, but I think if I recall, it was right close to like 8.5 inches, which I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I heard it was like 8 1/4 on the radio today. That's small.
And the average in the NFL is about 9.5, and then on the large size, you'll have a couple quarterbacks that are like 10 1/4 or something like that. But 9.5 to 10 inches is about where you're going to be at with most quarterbacks in the NFL. The ball in the NFL is about 1.25 inches circumference-wise, bigger than a college football. So you combine his small measured hands with an increased size in the football, it leads to question marks. So how is he going to look at Senior Bowl? And that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
He's looked okay. Mixed results. Wednesday was completely a disaster for all the quarterbacks. In fact, the entire practice was a disaster because it was raining cats and dogs, literally, and blowing and howling, and just it was a miserable mess for everybody. And but Malik Willis did a great job in Wednesday's practice. The wind and the rain did not affect him whatsoever. He was still able to throw balls with velocity and all over the field, and placement wise, he was still really accurate. Kenny Pickett struggled a little bit with that. Was uneven in his completions and threw some balls that sailed on him a bit and some underthrown ones. He had some great throws as well, but it was a mixed bag. Now today, they had practice indoors, and all the quarterbacks actually had good reps today, including Kenny Pickett. And he was able to kind of rebound and have a really good showing. And especially in the red zone, his accuracy was second to none.
Yeah. See, his tape is great. And I would be shocked if his hand size led him to dropping too far, because his tape is actually really good. And the other thing that in this is you got Joe Burrow, who doesn't have the largest hands either. And, he's only led his team to the Super Bowl. And really, this isn't like a situation where his team made it and he managed games. No, he led his team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And historically, there's been quarterbacks that have had smaller hands-ish and had varying success in the NFL.
Well, yeah, there's been some that have had a tremendous, stats and all of that, but it also correlates to fumbles.
Yes,
Dave Craig, who played for a lot of his career in Seattle and then a couple other teams at the end of his career, had the NFL record for the most fumbles forever, and it was largely attributed to his hands.
Yeah, if you were just to rate quarterbacks on stats alone, he's close to a top 10 quarterback in the NFL because he played so long. Like he had like 18 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's crazy how long his career
it was unbelievable. And so he's top 10 in quite a few different categories, touchdowns, but he's also top 10 or top 2, I think, in fumbles. Historically in the NFL, which is not a good stat.
Which is weird that Brett Favre is the one guy who passed him of all people. But again, that's just a guy who played forever. So
right. Okay. So Kenny Pickett, mixed bags. We'll see how he does in the actual game. That's going to be really important for quarterbacks. We were talking earlier about the importance of the practices for Senior Bowl this week as being the primary driver for a lot of the scouts and executives that attend this week's practices. And then the game is kind of secondary. But for quarterbacks, the game itself is really important to have a good showing because you want to show that you're in command of the offense.
Yes.
You're able to change plays at the line of scrimmage. All that kind of stuff kind of comes into play during the game that's not happening during practice.
Yeah, but for the rest of the players, it's the practices matter way more than the game. The game is kind of the showcase, and they sell commercials and ad revenue, and that pays for the game and all of that. But it's the practices that matter. And most of the scouts and executives from the NFL are gone before the game starts. They don't even stick around to watch. But you're right. The quarterbacks are the one exception because you don't get an opportunity to go out there and play, where you've got the full thing going on and you're making line calls and audibles and just really having to command an offense. With everything that's going on. And
you've got the rush coming at you and all that stuff. So everything is kind of happening for the quarterbacks. So I was going to say that and this is a credit to Jim Nagy, who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl, in that he's able to get just a great representation of talent to come and play in this bowl. And he's got 5 of the top 6 quarterbacks in the draft here at the game. And I think that's just a real testament to his ability to kind of put this whole thing together as well.
Yeah, he's always done a good job ever since he kind of took over there. The game is getting bigger, or not really the game. The week of practice is getting bigger. They're getting bigger names. They're getting more, and the teams are sending more and more, scouts and execs there. It used to be every team would send 2 or 3. Now every team's sending 6, and it's really a big deal. But it matters. You've got 100 and some players there. Last year, 104 players got drafted that attended the Senior Bowl. It's also the first.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It's what did you say? It was like 20 or 30% of all the drafted players.
Yeah. So Jim Nagy was interviewed today, and he said that they had 104 players last year drafted. He expected that number to go up to 107 to 108 players, and that it would be approximately 40 to 42% of the entire draft.
Yeah, because there's, I think it's 256 is the number of draft picks. So yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. That really is, and again, it's a testament to his job. That Senior Bowl has really turned around in the last several years that he's been in control of it too. So I was going to say Matt Corral did not make it here to this bowl. But Malik Willis is this kind of the second player, the second quarterback being looked at. In fact, some will look after the Senior Bowl as Malik Willis legitimizing his place as right there with Kenny Pickett being the first quarterback off the board, depending on which teams like which quarterbacks. And Malik Willis has done a real nice job. He clearly helped himself on Wednesday by being able to still command his passing abilities and so forth during the rain and windstorm that they practiced through. And then today he reaffirmed that by just really being on target and being able to throw pretty much through all levels of the defense in the one-on-one drills and have several completions that looked great. So he looked like an NFL quarterback.
The knock on him is, he played for Liberty, and they're like, how does it translate? I mean, you look at last year's group, and you've got guys like Trey Lance that he didn't get much playing time this year. And I know that the team was trying to win, and they had a veteran in Garoppolo and all of that, but part of it was they were like, yeah, his talent's there, but he needs development time before he's ready to play.
And I do think, Keith, that Malik Willis is going to need some time. He's got some great abilities. At the same time, he's got some deficiencies. He's probably the best quarterback, best feet as far as being able to move around in the pocket, quick feet, so he's able to drop back and get to his 3-drop and 5-drop really quick, so he can get into his progressions. He's perfect at that. Like, that's his strong suit. He can get out of outside the pocket and throw on the run really well. He's excellent at that, like Russell Wilson like. But there are some other deficiencies in his game, and those are going to need to be addressed, and he's going to need some time, I think, to season. Now, can you do that over the course of camp after the draft? So he's ready day one? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's that guy. Now, Kenny Pickett, to me, if you're going to go with a guy that's ready to go day one, he'd probably be my first choice.
But not a guy like Matt.
Possibly Sam Howell as well. Well, Sam Howell's an interesting guy.
Yeah. And he's not there. He's one of the few that's not one of the few top guys that's not at the Senior Bowl this year. Yeah.
Matt Corral could help you because he can get you out of some jams. So Matt Corral's a guy that you could turn the playbook over to, and half the time those plays are not going to be scripted, because he's going to be off script, and he's going to try to make stuff happen, and he's going to run for first downs and move the chains with his feet. And a coach, and a smart coach, made, especially a team that drafts him low, say he goes in the top 15 or whatever, that needs some help on offense. He would be a guy that could help you move some chains once in a while with his legs. But I'm not sure if Matt Corral is a guy that's NFL ready either. Each one of these guys is a little flawed, and possibly, like Kenny Pickett, may have been the 4th or 5th quarterback off the board last year.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't watched the Senior Bowl stuff, but from the tape study that I've done, I would have had him as the 6th quarterback a year ago. That the 5 that all went round 1 would have been ahead of him.
Yeah, well, he's got the experience. There's no doubt. Kenny Pickett's an experienced quarterback, but there's a big leap there to the NFL for him, and I'm not sure. But let's talk about Sam Howell.
Yeah, because this is an interesting one, because he's a guy that kind of gets lost in the everyone's excited about Pickett and Corral, and then you've got Willis who's just got that monster arm and all the physical tools, but he played at Liberty, and so that's a fun talking point. But Howell's having a good week from what I've read. Yeah. What have you seen? Yeah. Well,
he is having a good week, and he looks like a NFL quarterback. He's a pocket passer, but he can also move the ball with you. He's a bigger guy that can kind of push the pocket forward, quarterback sneaks, all that kind of stuff. He's not a scrambler. He's not going to, extend plays like Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson or Watson or any of those type of quarterbacks. He's definitely a guy, but he has enough where he's going to get you out of trouble, like Tannehill or players like that. And he makes all the throws. He's a quarterback that has probably the strongest arm. Willis is right there, but Sam Howell's probably leading this class in the ability to have the strongest arm and to be able to be the most accurate quarterback out of this group. So he's got that going for him. The thing that he does not have going for him is he's got the worst feet, the worst footwork of any quarterback in the top 6 quarterbacks. I haven't really looked too much further than Zapp, but out of that top 6, he's definitely the one that needs the most work.
Yeah, I saw a Bernie Kosar comp, which I thought was hilarious because that's going to mean nothing to most people reading these things because that's too long ago. But for me, I thought it was hilarious because there's a guy who just did not know what he was doing with his feet. Fantastic player, but just his footwork was atrocious throughout his career. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
and then Zapp's having a great practice too. He's a nice quarterback. I didn't pay attention and they didn't actually show Carson Strong very much on the live broadcast today, so I don't have notes on Carson Strong from Nevada and what he was able to do today. I understood from other commentary that all the quarterbacks had a pretty good outing today, including Desmond Ridder and then Bailey Zapp. And Bailey Zapp, and the only reason I bring Bailey up is because he's kind of that second tier kind of option for teams out there that are waiting into the 3rd and 4th round. I do have a feeling, though, if he continues to perform well at the Senior Bowl and then does well at the Combine, Bailey Zapp could break, up into the top 100 overall. But right now, he's kind of projected in that 4th round right now.
So then you're saying he basically looks like a career backup, more so than a developmental starter.
Yeah, it's possible. It's hard to tell with guys like that coming from Western Kentucky. You don't have a lot of film against higher competition there. He's going to need a year, so you're gonna have to wait and see on a player like Bailey Zapp. But I wouldn't rule it out. He looks competitive with the other quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. So I've got a big list of just general players to talk about and kind of run through. And
the next thing I wanted to do, because if you're looking at the quarterbacks and all of that, one of the things that is the guys that are catching balls downfield, and this is actually one of those positions, the cornerback and wide receiver battles in year past when I've actually had the ability to watch all these practices, those have been some of the most fun, and it's been some of the most meaningful, where you watch those battles and you see the wide receivers and cornerbacks going at it, and you realize, yeah, this is what it's like out there on the end. It's those practice reps, match game reps, much closer than with other position groups. So I wanted to get your opinion on what you saw with the wide receivers and cornerbacks.
Well, I mean, everyone was catching balls that were within range. There was a lot of athletic catches. I thought the tight end group also performed well. To separate talent wide receiver wise, it's hard at the Senior Bowl when you're watching live coverage because everyone's still talking about the quarterbacks when the receivers catch the ball, and sometimes you don't see the back of the jersey. You're not finding out who that was, and they just brush right over it. So sometimes you need to go back and revisit who's doing what. But I know that Romeo Doubs out of Nevada had some real nice catches there. Kind of an athletic, undersized guy, and quick. Let me go down my list really quick.
Uh-oh, I put you on the spot.
Oh, it's okay. Bo Melton's kind of a later round guy that had some nice catches there. And he's out of Rutgers, though, so I really don't have any information on him. And Alec Pierce from Cincinnati has been okay. Let me see. I just don't have a ton. I don't have a ton of notes on these guys, Keith, because like I said, nobody was talking about them. Nobody's talking about the wide receivers at the Senior Bowl. We need to solve that problem.
Yeah. And maybe that's one of the things that you'll see.
Yeah, I definitely
tomorrow's practice and stuff.
Exactly. It's funny, Keith, that you said that. Sam Williams, Ole Miss, had some nice catches today. Other than that, like what I just mentioned, those are literally the only players that I even wrote down names on.
Wow. So I ask you about the one position group that you,
which is fine,
that you, because I know
there's five position groups that I probably don't have any notes on, but I'm going to brush over that. That's why I wanted to take control of the list. You beat me to it. I'm trying
to ask questions and give you an opportunity to.
No question. I get it.
To be the expert and answer my questions with your array of knowledge of 100 players that are there. And apparently, I really screwed that up. So,
the wide receiver group there is hard to analyze during the practice week for the reason that I said, because the names are small, my eyesight's not great, and the guys on that are commenting are really focused on the throw, not the catch, and so you get a lot of guys talking about the quarterback and what he just did, and they brush over the catch or the athleticism or the drop or whatever. So you kind of have to go back and kind of review that a little bit later, and so that's why I'm not prepared on that list.
Well, then let's look at the offense and defensive lines, because even though they're not like everyone's favorite thing to talk about, you can get a lot of good information at the Senior Bowl about the offense and defensive lines. And I know that you have notes on those. So
well, I can tell you that I'll give you a couple names. So let's just go through this as I have them. Haskell Garrett, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. He injured his shoulder today. He had a couple great reps, and then an interior offensive lineman, Stuber, really messed him up, drove him to the ground. He hurt his shoulder. He walked off the field. But I understand from Jim Nagy later that Garrett let him know that he was going to play on Saturday. So that's good news. The other guy I won't really have to call out is, in addition to Stuber, who I thought looked fantastic in the reps that I saw him participate in, was Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning's the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Not a lot of people will recognize the name, but he's definitely like a top 3, I think, overall offensive tackle in this class. He's my favorite prospect on the offensive line in this class, just because he's kind of a mauler. He's a guy that's has that mindset that he's going to win and go past the whistle, and that kind of a player. So I'm kind of drawn to that. He's a physical kind of guy, and whereas somebody like Evan Neal from Alabama just wins on sheer talent and his ability to kind of move his feet and so forth. And this other guy, Trevor Penning, he has the talent, but he also has this little extra thing I just can't put my finger on, that he just wants to beat you. And I just like that. I think that has a higher success probability for me in the NFL. I think it translates better.
I'm curious to what you've seen with his feet, because
he moves his feet great. Like everything about him was great. He mirrored well. He drove players off the line of scrimmage on running plays, Keith. He pass protected really nice and well. I didn't see any moments where he gave up a sack or a significant pressure. He was really steady at that spot.
Yeah, because it's hard to get a lot of film from Northern Iowa, but imagine that.
Right.
So you're stuck with highlights, which is not a way to scout players. And so I've seen some great stuff, but I'm just very curious on whether his footwork is as consistent as it appears to be.
Yeah, from everything I've heard too, that being the case is that his footwork is premier at the Senior Bowl. A couple of prospects where that's not the case, a mixed bag on one of these players and a complete fail on the other one. I'll talk about the mixed bag first in Darien Canard, the offensive tackle out of Kentucky. They also have him playing inside at the Senior Bowl at guard.
which is probably a better spot for him.
It's probably a better spot for him. And looking at his body and all that kind of stuff, it just seems like he's an inside guy. Nonetheless, he's got mixed results. His first step is late. He's being driven back by defensive tackles and defensive ends with arm length that is superior to his arm length. And it's going to be interesting for him. I think he's a developmental guy. I don't know that he's right there at the first and second round on a lot of boards. And I think he looks to me like the back end of a second round, top of the third round kind of a guy. And I'm just not sold on him. And I'm curious is after you have an opportunity to evaluate the Senior Bowl tape and everything that's being said, what your opinion is, because I'm just not seeing it. I'm not feeling it with him.
Yeah, I mean, from my notes, looking at the tape that I've seen, this is not Senior Bowl tape. This is pre-Senior Bowl scouting. I thought he looked like a guard, but that if once you move him into guard, he was going to be good.
Yes.
But he just didn't have the foot speed.
That's it.
Outside
so he doesn't have the functional strength. He looks like he should have the functional strength. Mm-hmm. He looks like he has lacking functional strength because he's getting pushed at the point of attack by almost everyone he goes against. He's not pushing the pocket. He's not initiating contact. He's not the aggressor. He seems to be, on the defense quite a bit. And that's weird to me.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
So who's the other guy? That guy.
Well, the other guy that I hate to say this about a prospect, but a guy that I would avoid would be Daniel Falali out of the offensive tackle out of Minnesota. He's the guy, if you remember, that's like 6'8", 380 pounds. He looks 6'8" and 380 pounds. He does. He's a big guy. He also moves like he's 6'8" and 380 pounds. It's just not good. He's been driven back onto his back like 3 or 4 times by accounts. And then today I saw him get beat a couple times just around the edge, just literally ran around him. And so I just don't know if he's ready to be an NFL guy. If you could move him inside at 6'8", 380 pounds.
You can't move a guy. You can't move a guy at 6'8".
I think he would be a liability.
He's going to lose leverage on everyone.
He's losing leverage right now. And I just don't, I don't know. I don't know because in order for that 6'8", 380, he'd have to be the strongest guy on the field. He'd have to really
he should be at 6'8", 380.
He would think, but he's pretty soft. He's getting pushed back, and then really he's not able to recover after the initial arm jab and hit, and he stumbles. He's stumbling, and he's literally getting driven back onto his back. So
I'll say
that would be a player I would cross off my list.
Super disappointing because one of the things that was fun was that they dropped him off the line and at fullback in their bowl game, and seeing their 380-pound guy playing fullback, you're like, all right, this guy must be able to move pretty well if they're going to do that. And I mean, they did it. They ran behind him, and it was kind of fun to watch. But
so this guy's getting like a top of the second round grade from a lot of players. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think he hurts himself out of the Senior Bowl. I think he tests very poorly at the combine. I don't eventually see him being a top 100 prospect. I think a team takes a flyer on him in the 4th round. If they've got, 2 to 3 4th round picks or a couple extra 5th rounders, you take a flyer on a guy like that. He comes in, he does what you said. He's your fullback or whatever. And he's kind of your swing tackle possibly. But I only see him fitting as a right tackle in the NFL, possibly a right guard. If he were to drop, let's just say 20, 25 pounds, you could be more realistic, but he's not going to be able to get to the second level for you. I just don't think. Yeah. And that's a key attribute that you need to have. All right.
Yeah, that's super disappointing because I actually really wanted to see a guy that big make it in the NFL. I thought that would be really entertaining for everybody.
Yeah. Spencer Buford's having a fairly decent, he's a UTSA prospect. Spencer Buford is getting a lot of reps at offensive tackle, taking some reps at guard. Abraham Lucas out of Washington State reportedly has been looking really, really good. Let me see if I've got other guys. You mentioned defensive guys too.
Say Lucas is a guy that his tape is better than people think. And I wonder if it's because of the school that he plays for and its reputation as a Mike Leach style offense, that if he's getting pushed down on boards more than his tape suggests it should. So it's good to hear that he's doing well there. I think he's a guy that, I mean, he's not a top prospect. He's a mid-round guy, but I think he's a guy that can come in and earn a spot, work his way onto the field and be pretty good. So
I'll switch sides and I'll go to the defensive line. Devontae Wyatt had a couple of really good days of practice, skipped today. Apparently he's still interested in playing, but he didn't want to overdo it there. And he looks excellent. Fedarian Mathis out of Alabama was a prospect that was on everybody's radar as being a kind of a three-tech disruptor. And a pocket pusher kind of prospect, but with some, hesitancy on his consistency. And he's been everything on a positive side. So he's had the consistency this week. He's looked really good pushing the pocket. Perrion Winfrey, again, a guy that had question marks on his work ethic, has come in and really shown that he's putting in the work and doing what it takes to get on the radar and stay on the radar at the defensive tackle spot, and a guy that can move the pocket around a little bit and give you a little bit of a pass rush. Haskell Garrett, I mentioned him earlier as being injured today in a shoulder. He's another guy to keep an eye on as far as a guy that can give you a little bit of a pass rush. He's looked good. Who else has been there that's looked good? Neil Farrell out of LSU has had a decent week. Let's go to defensive ends and edge guys. We all know that the big guys, and they're not there, but Jermaine Johnson is having a week. So Jermaine Johnson is the number one prospect out of this Senior Bowl. Now, he started out being a fringe first round, second round pick. He's squarely in the first round conversation now after this week. He has literally dominated practice at the line of scrimmage. And McShay is just raving about him, as well as the other guys commenting, and just say he's just having a great outing out there and possibly looking at being a top 15 pick, which is tremendous for a guy that started out being, a top 30 prospect. You move up that much just by having 3 practices. That's a pretty good deal. I don't know if he'll end up being that way, but that's where the conversation is with him. Kingsley Ngbari out of South Carolina is having a good week. I will say that most of the defensive ends and pass rushers in this practice are having good days and okay reps, at other times, because offensive linemen are winning those reps too. So it does go both ways. But Majai Sanders has a great first step, and is probably a second round type of guy. Sam Williams is another guy to keep an eye on as a riser, because he's having a great week at the Senior Bowl this week. Amari Barno is another guy that's really rising up. Virginia Tech edge rushers, got great speed, real competitive there. Tyreek Smith is another guy. Ohio State. D'Angelo Malone. D'Angelo Malone is a guy to watch. He's a guy from Western Kentucky, currently expected to be kind of a 5th round grade on this guy, and he could rise up and be in the conversation at the back end of the 3rd round or 4th round, just based on his speed. He's an edge rusher that's 6'4", 250 pounds or 240 pounds, depending on what you look at. But he runs a 4.5 40 and has great length. And anytime you have that combination, you're going to get a good look and good opportunity. Boy Mafe out of Minnesota is another guy that's having a lot of great reps during practice and getting around guys. It's a good group. I mean, there's just a ton of guys that are having a great opportunity. Let me just go through some guys I highlighted, whether they're good or bad. Jermaine Johnson is having a great, I think I mentioned him earlier. He's having a great, Roger McCrary, cornerback. I thought I'd throw out there as a guy that came in right at the second round big board area and came in and measured an arm length of 29 and 5/8 arms. Now, most teams are looking for corners, especially slot corner guys that, have arms in the 31 range. If you're going to be an outside corner, you're going to want guys with like 32-inch arms. 29 and 5/8 really pigeonholes him because he didn't come in being a slot guy. He came in as being kind of an outside corner guy, and was expected to be, a top 5 or 6 corner in this draft. And with that arm measurement length, I'm not exactly sure what that's going to do to his value, because that really does narrow his usage in the NFL with a lot of teams. Now, some teams will go ahead and put a guy like that on the outside still, but certain matchups are going to have matchup superiority over that, and there's nothing you can do about those physical limitations. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and what'll also matter is when he gets into the combine, it's not just the arm length. That arm length that's going to hurt, but if he has like a 44-inch vert, like that can negate a lot of the arm length problems. The other part where it's going to matter is up at the line of scrimmage. Like if you have significantly shorter arms than the wide receiver across from you, your ability to get a solid jam is limited, because they're just going to be able to initiate contact instead of letting you do so. So it really does matter, but I do think that we may see him be able to mitigate some of that with some just superior athleticism at the combine. Yeah,
and I hope so. Who else is having a good week? Kobe Bryant is having a good week out of Cincinnati. Caleb Evans out of Missouri, again, having a great time. Tariq Woolen is a guy to watch that's going to be a riser in this draft, currently hovering around 100 overall prospect on consensus big boards. And he's a guy that's got great height, speed, weight combo. So 6'3.5", 204 pounds, 33.25-inch arms, runs a 4.34 40. And wow. And he was comped today by McShay to Antonio Cromartie. Great press man, cover corner in the NFL for a long time. So he's a guy that is expected to rise up the boards after the Senior Bowl. Mikhail Wright out of Oregon was added just recently to the bowl, so that'll be interesting if he gets any playing time on Saturday. I want to mention a couple of running backs. Brian Robinson from Alabama during the run up to the big game. He had a really nice breakaway game there. I can't remember who the opponent was now. Was it Michigan State that he had like the 200-yard game? I can't remember, but he's been had a great week. He looks like the part of being a 3-down running back in the NFL. And then a running back that nobody's really talking about yet is Damian Pierce out of Florida. He's like 5'9", 5'10", 215-pound guy, but he's very physical. He's kind of a natural born leader. So at the Senior Bowl, everyone was talking about him with certain intangible traits. And those were, built around leadership and guys really rallying around him, a hard runner, setting the example, all that kind of stuff. I understand that he's a guy that everyone's paying attention to as somebody that's moving up the boards. And currently a guy that's in the 140, 130 range on big boards is expected to crack the 100 mark by the time it's all said and done, after he tests and so forth.
That'll be interesting, because if he comes into the combine and really tests well, that he could move up. I think he could move up quite a ways, because
there's a shortage of running backs there at the top.
Yeah, there really is. And so seeing guys like that, especially that size, where he's got the size to be a physical player and move the line of scrimmage and get yards after contact and that stuff. Those guys are they're not as common as I think a lot of people think.
Yeah, you don't plug and play guys that kind of tilt the field like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mention another offensive lineman, Zion Johnson out of Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I mention it is there's a mixed bag on him. There's some people that have him in the second round, third round grade, that think he's like the second or third overall top interior offensive lineman in this draft. There are those that don't believe that he should be in the conversation at all and should be in the fourth or fifth round. The reason I brought him up today is that he was taking offensive center snaps at the Senior Bowl, not only during practice in one-on-one drills, but after practice when every single other player had left the field, he remained on the field and was providing snaps to his position coaches. So taking extra reps.
That is interesting because he is a guy that I can tell you with my evaluation of him, as a guard, I don't see him being that high. That like second round kind of guard.
Yeah, this is a very smart move by him.
But as a center, the moment you said that, my brain goes, oh, wait. Yeah, that would be a good move for him because his ability to help and then get to the second level and take on a linebacker, I could see him doing well with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna get overwhelmed by defensive tackles as a guard. Guys are just gonna push right through him, and that's why I don't see him as as strong of a guard prospect as a lot of the scouting services out there.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. The coaches asked him to check it out, to try it out. I saw an interview that he gave, and he said the coaches asked him to give it a go at center, and he gladly accepted. I think it's a smart move because of the way that the center position kind of plays out in this draft, and he could end up really helping himself, I think, get drafted in the, by the third round or so at center. If he does well.
And even like, having that versatility is valuable. Even if teams come away looking at it, okay, he's not a starter because he doesn't have, certain physical attributes, doesn't have the strength, that kind of stuff. The fact that he can play both guard and center means that now he's a guy that's super valuable to have on your roster, since you can only dress 46 on game day, because he can back up 3 different positions for you. And that kind of versatility is like, it's just way more valuable than I think a lot of fans ever consider it to be. So
I agree.
That's a great move for him.
2 more prospects, and then let's get out of here. I just want to mention these 2 for sure, because I had these guys as risers, guys that came in at a certain level, and by all accounts, they are helping themselves already with Senior Bowl practices. The first guy I want to mention is Jalen Petrie, the safety. 6 foot, 200 pounds, runs a 4.43 40. He's quoting McShay, he's making money in mobile. And the reason for that is that he's able to make plays both as a strong safety and a free safety, as well as in the slot. So he's got scheme diversity for you. That's very coveted right now. Teams are really looking for hybrid type safeties to be able to be scheme diverse. So there's a player right there for you. And a guy that's definitely moving up and helping himself. The other guy is Isaiah Likely, the tight end. He was comped by McShay to Gerald Everett and Dawson Knox from the Buffalo Bills at 6'4", 242. McShay said that Likely had such a good outing so far, he's moved him up to his number 2 overall tight end in the draft. And he originally came in as the 4th best tight end. So I thought that was interesting. And he's
a lot of movement.
6'4", 240. So he's definitely a move tight end. He's not going to be an inline guy for you. He seems willing, but that's one thing to be willing. The other thing to be physically able. but he's more of a pass catching guy, and he's really dynamic and long, and really making a name for himself there.
So you're saying that he's likely to be a second round pick?
Yes. Cha-ching.
God, that was terrible.
Perfect.
And with that terrible disappointment, let's go ahead and wrap the show up.
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up. 45 minutes of talking about random people that only a certain percentage of the population will even get. So anybody that's listening to this show that is not a fan of the NFL draft or college football or the NFL, you're in the wrong spot. I'm sorry to say, you're just not going to get anything that we just talked about. But hopefully there was enough of you that did enjoy that. You can find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. I'm at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_playbook, or profootballplaybook.co is the website, as well as your favorite podcast platforms, everything from Spotify to Google Podcasts to Amazon to Apple, all that good stuff. And then find us on YouTube and subscribe. That would be great. So we'll see you next time, guys. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. Follow Keith at Myers NFL. Bill is at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_playbook. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and at our website, profootballplaybook.co.